Thank you so much for choosing to stay with Memories 96.5 FM this Tuesday morning. Here we do a fine job of educating, entertaining, and for Melting Point today, the 21st of October 2025, is 3 minutes past 10. Welcome to the program. My name is NYAKNNO Albert.
It's a pleasure to join you on the Melting Point today. I am Enquiry. Thanks for being with us. Good morning.
Alright, so the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, is asking the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, explain how a total of 18.6 billion naira meant for the construction of the National Assembly Service Commission Office Complex was spent. Well, according to the 2022 report from the Auditor General of the Federation, the money was paid to an unknown construction company with no bidding process, no bureau of public procurement approval, and no record of who received the money. So, what does this say about transparency in the legislature, the same institution saddled with the responsibility of performing oversight functions on other institutions of government? We're about to unpack all of that with our guest this morning. Our guest is an organizational development consultant and a public affairs analyst. He is a regular voice here on Melting Point. Good morning, Mr. Marvel Essien. Welcome to Melting Point today.
Good morning, Yaki.
How are you doing
It's a
today?
pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining
A
us.
bit under the weather, so
Yeah.
I'll speak slowly.
Okay. You should have mentioned
Very
that
low,
earlier, so I'll do the needful to make sure you're comfortable in here. Alright, so you can be part of this discussion via the phone lines on 0803 085 7755 and 0809 066 6909. The second number serves as our WhatsApp number. So when you send a message, we'll be reading it out here this morning. We're streaming live on YouTube at Memories TV Online. You can drop a comment there and we'll read it here on the program this morning. So let's dive right into it this morning. Come with us on Melting Point today. Alright, so according to the Auditor General's 2022 report, about 18.6 billion naira was paid for the National Assembly Service Commission's new office complex to an unknown construction company without open bidding. How is it even possible for public funds to be paid to a company whose name and details are missing from official records, first of all?
Great question. That's exactly what came to my mind when I read the news in one of these national dailies. And the whole news did not come across as something that it's way out of the way, because you should be able to identify a company.
Definitely.
You are talking about Auditor General's office. So which account was this money paid into? So you should be able to say this money was paid into so account. If it was an individual account or a company's account, the bank should be able to provide the details.
I mean, our anti-graft agencies swing into action if things like that happen.
Exactly. Not calling on the National Assembly. Those are part of the issues that we have seen usually come up when we are talking about transparency and accountability in the Nigeria setting. Meanwhile, let me, for the benefit of those that may not be very conversant with SERAP, SERAP is an acronym for Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. They have been around as a non-profit organization. It was actually established by Adetukumbo Momoni since 2004. They have been around and they have filed a lot of suits against government, and they have won some. And the some that they have won, you would consider it as very many anyway, because they have, for you to win cases against government in Nigeria could be like an uphill task. If you remember the case where Saraki wanted to earn a life pension, and Serap sued the Kwara State government, and they won that case. You also remember that Serap also sued the government to declare Abacha loot, the details of Abacha loot, and won that case. So Serap have had some of these cases that they have won in the past. So if they come out to speak today about taking legal action, because they have said they are giving the National Assembly 7 days, after which if they don't do anything about it, that they are going to take a legal action about it. So they mean it, that they are going to do so, and I'm looking forward to the legal action, because I don't see the National Assembly acting in the next 7 days or reacting to this in the next 7 days.
Interesting perspective.
Now, when this case goes to court, what is likely to happen in the court? You just asked a very pertinent question when you asked the Auditor General's office. They have not called in the EFCC or ICPC or any relevant agency that would have taken up a matter like this. And if they have not done so, and they are looking up to the National Assembly, my other question will be, are they expecting a probe to be instituted to such a matter that is very clear? Like this is, if you say you cannot identify, the first step is to be able to investigate. That's part of the things that we have been seeing as a challenge in this aspect of in these issues of transparency and accountability. You see situation where people keep passing buck. If you are in government, you are holding a leadership position, then you should be able to be accountable for your own space. So if you find out that someone has done something wrong and you cannot take immediate action, you are waiting for another arm of government to take action over that matter, that's inexplicable, because all the MDS, ministries, departments and agencies of government, their hand should be on deck, and they should be able to show integrity in everything that they do without necessarily passing buck when it comes to a time that they should be able to take action. So the Accountant General's, the Auditor General, yes, the Auditor General office have come up with this, and the SERAP has a very good basis for it, because it is in their audited report that this money actually went out for the construction of an office complex that is for the National Assembly Service Commission. Then later on, according to them, they said it was bloated. Allegedly said that the amount was bloated to about 6 billion again for the conversion of the roof garden to an office complex at the National Assembly complex. Now, if you have seen that since 2022, that this is the annual report of 2022, and this money, the first payment was made in August 2020, then you should be able to track it. Then the second payment was made on the 29th November 2023. You should be able to track it as well, and have the EFCC move into action, or ICPC come in to investigate the issues, not waiting for SERAP to call out the national government to take action. Those are the things that we see as impediments to the accountability, the transparency that we expect from government. I want to also explain this other aspect. When we talk about the government in Nigeria, we see that we have very beautiful policies, well written and promulgated into laws, like the act in reference now is about the Procurement Act. The Procurement Act has set out, established the Bureau of Public Procurement, Department of Government. Now, the Bureau of Public Procurement has is very clear about the processes, the procedure for you to be able to issue or award contracts. Now, inside of it, you need to do needs assessment. You need to even collect a certificate from the bureau that there is no objection for this. That means that you will have met up all the criteria, including advertising, including, you know, if it is a project that would call for bids, bidding and all that. You need to be very transparent about these things, publicize these things. So when it comes out, it would be that you have been able to follow due process. This act was made in 2007, and we've been talking about due process by lips, just paying lips like service to due process. But in real practice, are we following this due process? And you see, if we are following due process, we wouldn't be having these ridiculous cases coming up from time to time. I'm just saying this to show that when the institutions are weak, when departments of government are weak, we would continue to be having issues like this. You recall the recent presidential pardons.
Yeah.
It went through, you set up a committee, you went
And now
through
it's
all that,
under review.
and now it's under review. So those are things that we need to bear in mind, that the institutions of government should be more responsible for these things that we keep seeing on a daily basis, that is becoming so embarrassing to Nigeria as a nation.
Well, Serap says there was no advertisement, no bidding, no objection certificate from the Bureau for Public Procurement. So, how serious is it when a government agency awards a major contract without following due process? What are the consequences?
You see, the law is very, very clear. You have an act that was established in 2007, and to what extent the government departments are following, complying with this act is another issue completely. So if you are not following this act, it can be interpreted as fraud. It can be interpreted as fraud. The most obvious consequence of it is that you have shown yourself that we are not a serious country.
And that's all?
No, when you show yourself forth as not a serious country, you have. You see, the most important thing about this thing is about the trust that citizens are supposed to have in government. So when you do things to breach that trust, now an act has been established, you are not following that due process, and we have found ourselves in this situation. Now, you would see that citizens' trust would have waned the more in government. What further, it's a multiplier effect kind of thing, because you will see that citizens, even in the payment of tax, you will see people, you know, what do we pay tax for when people keep stealing this money from government? So you also see the way Nigeria will be looked at in the international community, in the ways that, by the ways we are doing our things. So it has a multiplier effect. Take it away from the law provides for certain years of imprisonment, and all. Those are not even as serious as when you make the citizens' confidence in your government to win. It goes a long way. So when you see our attitude towards electoral processes, we see our attitude towards the way we treat government property, the way we find ourselves. When once somebody goes into government, it's a time to be wealthy, and that mindset is given out from this kind of issues. So, but it makes it worse that you are not even punishing the offenders. People will now see that the powerful offenders are not punished. The less powerful offenders are punished. So what is that? So once you find yourself in that situation, then the rule of law is in question. So gradually you'll be moving the nation to anarchy, that people will resort to self-help. Self-help in various ways. You go into government as even a civil servant. you begin to look for ways to also make your wealth. That's not a very good way for us to drive our nation. So this is a very serious issue, because we have been talking about this issue of trust and accountability, transparencies issues and all that for over a very long time, and we keep discussing it as it relates to governance in Nigeria, and we know the consequences this could have on our nation, but we still find ourselves struggling with these kind of things. We trust that ultimately SERAP will go to court to take this to court. The judiciary is another institution of government. So you have the Auditor General's office, something coming out from there. You have the EFCC, ICPC not taking action immediately. In fact, the EFCC should not even wait for National Assembly to respond within the 7 days. Like today, we should have had arrest of people. Now, you also look at even the Auditor General's office itself. For you to publish this kind of audit report, and you sit back to say you can't even identify the company that the money was paid to. It's Auditor General's office, auditor's office we are talking about. We are not talking about a sales office. You are the one that is vested. You can investigate part of audit work. You can track the trail of this payment and all that. So if you come up to say you don't know the company, not to talk of the directors of the company involved, then it raises a real high question mark on the Auditor General's office itself about competency. So if it were in some country, you would have seen resignation letter this morning.
Yeah, you're talking about transparency. Well, like a relentless bulldog, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP has undoubtedly been at the forefront of Nigeria's fight for transparency and accountability, oftentimes challenging government officials to account for trillions of naira in public funds through legal action and freedom of information. And the organization is demanding answers on the spending of FAC allocations, local government funds, all revenues, and pushing for investigations into alleged corruption and all these cases. In all of these cases, do you think SERAP is biting more than it can chew, because handling all of these cases all at once, and we are hearing of less prosecutions and successes recorded by SERAP?
It shouldn't be SERAP alone that is handling this. There should be other organizations. You see, the SERAP in itself, they are carrying the citizens' burden on themselves, and as citizens, we also have a role to play in support of SERAP. So when SERAP is speaking out, all other citizens should join in speaking out. And you also see that you have lawyers that could offer services to SERAP pro bono, that is free of charge, and prosecute these cases. So we have a lot of lawyers in Nigeria that also maybe thinking about humanity and would like to assist SERAP in most of these cases. SERAP, they have done well on their part, but of course the institution, the system itself, Nigeria as a country, the culture that we are building is standing on the way as one of the major obstacles to what SERAP would have achieved if not for this kind of culture of impunity and all that we are finding ourselves. That's why I talked about SERAP and highlighting those cases that they have won so far. Talking about the freedom of information, we know how they strangulated Minister of Power, legally speaking, to offer details of some information that the judiciary, as the law courts, actually enforced it and made ruled on it and made Minister of Power to succumb to them. So they have done their part. Even the National Assembly declaration of assets by the National Assembly members, they also pushed it and they got results from it. So if they are on this course, then citizens should be very, very conscious and have a way of supporting these things. When you talk about policies in Nigeria, you have a lot of things. Like recently, you hear the federal government talking about priority-based budgeting.
Yeah.
That priority-based budgeting will go a long way to also help. It's not as if people do not know that sometimes government misplaced priorities when they embark on projects. But people coming together to say this is the kind of projects that we need. For example, what we witnessed in Akwa State recently, where they call town hall meetings.
Yeah.
The governor actually was going to these federal constituencies to seek their opinion on the kind of project that they will want in their locality. That on its own is part of what will support transparency, because if you choose a certain road, everybody will know that is what was chosen. So at the end of the governor's tenure, if that road wasn't provided, then you can also question it. I also observed the same thing at Jigawa State, where the Jigawa State governor called stakeholders to a meeting and also asked them for their input regarding government initiatives. And those are ways of government calling out to be transparent. There was a time in this country that we talked about all levels of government also publishing their audited reports. And if we are able to achieve such things, then every time that a published report comes out, government functionaries would also be conscious that people can rise up and question certain expenditures within the budget that was budgeted for, and if those infrastructures or whatever was budgeted for was actually carried out or done. In the Procurement Act also provides for that as well, that you also should be able to show certificate of completion of projects. So all this would have added up to help the nation foster more transparency and accountability in their ways of doing things. But we still have the culture problem that is really, really affecting us, where it's very dangerous for people to begin to be looking up to the national government or state government for everything that comes on. Like you have an issue happening in a particular ministry, maybe Ministry of Transport or Ministry of Agriculture, and people in that ministry would fail to take action, and they will be talking about the state governor acting, or the presidency acting, or the National Assembly.
I mean, we all say the buck stops at the table of the man in charge. So
the buck stops at this table, but you have your own sphere of responsibility you should carry out.
All right.
And it should be thoroughly done.
Let's talk about accountability now. The National Assembly usually plays the role of oversight, checking how others spend public money. But how damaging is it to public trust if the lawmakers themselves are accused of violating the same accountability standards they are supposed to enforce?
If you're asking that question relating to this issue,
yes,
we cannot establish if the National Assembly is involved in any way in this. What we are talking about is the building of the National Assembly Service Commission. That Service Commission is about the civil servants who are the permanent workers in the national. That's distinguish them from the public sector. That is the politicians that are there. So they have their own budget. They have their own administrative platform and scale of doing it. So it's not necessarily that anything that goes to the National Assembly Service Commission, that maybe the President of the Senate or the Speaker of the National Assembly will know about. I think that SERAP is only calling up this leadership of the National Assembly for them to question or to investigate in terms of the oversight function that you're referring to.
All right.
Because they have responsibility of that, in all ministries, departments, and agencies, in all spheres of government and business in Nigeria. So if anything happens anyway, they should be able to take care of it or investigate it and maybe make recommendations. But I keep emphasizing that this may just have to do with the Auditor General's office taking an immediate action and reporting this to EFCC.
Since you've taken us back to the Auditor General's office, let's go there. The report came from, of course, the Office of the Auditor General, which reviews government spending every year. So why do many audit reports in Nigeria end up sometimes ignored or unpunished, and what can be done to change that trend?
When we look at the Nigeria system, the culture, I keep emphasizing on the culture, our ways of doing things, you see the level of impunity in the country. You see the level that the country is so divided between the rich and the poor, what we may call the most powerful, the elite in the society. And so it's becoming it's appearing these days that people have different laws for the powerful, the elites, and another law for the poor. So you keep seeing the manifestations of this thing. So when issues like this come up, there may be 1,001 cases that are there to be investigated. SERAP may just choose what they feel is more glaring in terms of the kind of evidences that can be generated. Don't forget they talked about the bill of quantity. It means that SERAP would have asked for the bill of quantity for the construction of those buildings, but found none. So imagine that money has been paid out without a bill of quantity. By the way, you cannot issue out a contract without a bill of quantity, because it is the bill of quantity that would explain the expenditures, expected expenditures, what the kind of quality that you want to give to that job. It is the bill of quantity that will tell you the quantity of materials that should be used in executing, and the type, the quality as well, that should be used to accomplish a project. So if this money was paid out, we are talking about 18 billion naira here, and all paid out without accounting for the 18 billion, without telling us that 1 billion is for surfacing, the other one is for digging, the other one is for laying foundation or something. So if you are not able to present such a document, then money was actually paid out. Who paid the money? Who were the signatories to that contract in the civil service? So by the time it gets to the Auditor General Office, the Auditor General Office picked it up from somewhere. It must have come from the Accountant General's office. So what were the signatures on it? Well, apart from the mention of the type of project we are talking about, you don't have any other information to give other than there's a whole amount they couldn't, and they are asking the National Assembly to assist them get this information such that they can, it could help us to understand what it is. So if they don't, and SERAP chooses to go to court, how strong is our judiciary? How strong is our courts to be able to adjudicate on this kind of matter? That's why when we are discussing a subject like this, we look at Nigeria and we look at where we are coming from, and we just want to see what hopes that we have for our country if we can find a way to see how we can strengthen most of these institutions and make people realize that the question of integrity is not about leadership alone, that the question of integrity goes beyond leadership. Because if you are working in a department of government, you know when somebody asks you to do something that is wrong, you know when somebody is asking you to commit a fraud. So if you are a clerk or a cleaner or whatever position you may be, and you lack that integrity, then you would comply to an order or an instruction that you know is fraudulent. So you pass it on, and it keeps going on like that. So what is the place of integrity in our entire system in Nigeria? So we keep having people in leadership position, and when issues like this come up, we look up to the politicians and we keep pointing fingers at the politicians. We hardly point fingers at the civil servants, who may be the major culprits in this kind of situation. The processing, you see, when you look at the administrative structure that we have set up in Nigeria, you see the civil service structure is the backbone to all the administrative processes in the country. So if you have a very weak civil service structure or a corrupt civil service structure, they will be the ones that will keep supporting the politicians or guiding the politicians on how to get themselves corrupt. So if the politicians too were to go in there with their own set of integrity, so when they get there, they will inculcate that integrity in the civil service by asking questions and enforcing the rules and making sure that they themselves are doing the right thing. So if you are not having that integrity, what example are you going to lead by? So we keep having issues like this. And once these civil servants and politicians behave in this way, the citizens, that is us, we lose hope in everything. So you see, government comes up to do anything, ask somebody go outside, they say, is it government that says, in our life, it's not possible, it's not true, because we don't have. So even when government is telling you to do the right things, in recent times I know what kind of reactions I get when I'm discussing the economy of Nigeria. So no matter what the government, the federal level, they are doing at the macro level, at the macroeconomic level, people don't trust, people don't believe. The other time we talked about inflation coming down to 18%, and somebody called in to say, are you sure? In some other place I was. Are you sure that it is 18%? How can you say inflation that is about 70%? The economy is not stabilized. Why? It is government that is making this statement, and people are not ready to believe anything that comes out from the government, just because you have so many cases like this where you see this kind of level. When we talk about 18 billion naira unaccounted for, and that building, I don't know where it is located. So 18 billion naira is out from the coffers of government like that. So you don't need a social to tell you that there's a fraudulent situation here. But how are we going to manage it? How are we going to punish it? How are we going to correct it? It could only be through punishment. It could also be that we need to have a way that we encourage the carrot and stick. So whoever pointed out this thing would also get compensation for doing so, and those people found guilty should be punished. But what are we going to have when we are saying from a government department, the Auditor General's office, that they don't know the name of the company, they don't know the details of the directors of that company, they don't have, the only information that they have is the date of payment of when the money went out and the amount that went out. So in billions of naira, is it by cash? It must have passed through a bank.
There were signatories and others.
There should have been signatories. There should be source documents that you have, that you use in processing whatever you want to get done. Then the other part of it, there is no bill of quantity for that project. And so how did the Accountant General Office approve the payment without a bill of quantity? So those are questions that when we see these things, by voicing out some of these challenges that we are having in our country, it may just be good that someone someplace is hearing us. The next time he wins an election and gets into a position, he knows what contributions to make. All those that they have a major responsibility, a major expectation from the citizens, that if we must transfer our system, that we need to introduce. When we talk about accountability, transparency and all that, it requires integrity. That's the value that you take there. So if you are struggling with your integrity, you know that you are also hurting yourself, because at the end of the day, generations yet unborn will come and suffer this rot that we are having in our country today. So it is a high time we changed the way we are doing things and see how to inculcate in ourselves integrity and ability for us to even identify that. See, it is not just because when you see news like this, you begin to think, oh, the Senate President should take action, the the Speaker of the House of Representatives should take action, and you forget that in your own role as a staff in any department of government, that you have your own actions to take. That we mustn't always wait for issues like this to go up to the national leadership before we know that it is wrong for us to support or encourage fraud in whatever systems that we are finding ourselves. So the culture of impunity, the weak local governance, you see what is happening in other tiers of government today. You see when we want to do elections, say councillors, you just pick anybody to become a councillor, you pick anybody to become a chairman of a local government, then you expect miracle at the national level. It doesn't work that way. So if we want to strengthen our system, we should look at the category, the kind of people that we are putting into governance. We should look at who is representing us at the House of Assembly. We should look at those qualities. I like this issue by the state government recently talking about the recruitment system in Akwa State, that the government intends to make it by merit. So you now go into a portal and write exams. So when you pass the exams, you are called in for interview. So we are waiting to see the implementation of it and how transparent government is going to be about it. So if somebody scores a good grade in the portal, in the exams, then the person is taken. So if we have that, then we start introducing people who are capable first into the system. Then we have the leadership at the federal and the state governments that are serious about this issue of integrity to demand performance, demand accountability. Then we would have a better way to go. When we talk about, as leadership is demanding accountability, citizens of the country should also be demanding accountability. We should be able to be bold enough to ask our representatives, our councillors, our local government chairman, ask them, what is this? How much did you receive? What are you doing with this money? Come and account to us. Tell us about it. Question most of these things. If you local government chairman sets out a priority in something that is not too relevant or is not economically viable for your local government, question it.
But the local government structure, the local government tier of government also has its own legislative arm.
Yes, that's the councillors I'm talking about. That in selecting them, we need, because it starts from there. It starts from there. So you would not be able to achieve so much at the national if you're not getting it right. Because it is even these councillors that can also question their house member regarding things that they are doing in their own constituency. It is the strength. If we have a very strong other tiers of government, then the national government would also sit up in many of the things that they do. So if you have people from all aspects of life demanding accountability, then we will not have this public accountability crisis that we are currently facing in the country, where people just allow things, and when even the departments of government, when it happens like this, like the Auditor General's office, they now feign ignorance as if they don't know what they should have done and act in ways that is highly suspicious. Because how can you work for many years to occupy such a high position, and you have managers under you, you have directors or whatever under you in different aspects? Then when an issue like this comes up, you boldly tell the country, you can come out and tell the country you don't know the company that this money were paid to. It's embarrassing to our country.
Our time check is 10:41 here, Memories 96.5 FM, and you're listening to Melting Point. Today we are talking about the demand by SERP to the National Assembly, urging the National Assembly leadership, talking about the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, to account for 18.6 billion National Assembly funds, particularly for the National Assembly Service Commission Office Complex. You can join the discussion this morning by dialing 0823 085 7755, 0829 066 6909. The second number serves as our WhatsApp number, so if you send a message on WhatsApp, we'll definitely read it out here this morning. Sincere apologies to John Bone. Yesterday I couldn't take your message, and today hopefully there will be time to read your message this morning. Let's talk about the political implications of what SERP is demanding. I mean, the current Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, and Speaker Tajuni Abbas are directly mentioned in SERP's letter. What impact do you think this could have on political or public image of the leadership of the National Assembly if the allegations by SERP are not addressed openly? Yes, it doesn't concern them directly, but now they have been involved, and it behoves on them to come out public and at least say something.
They should come out to say something, at least to set the pace for conversations in the country regarding this issue. But you see, if the National Assembly were to come out to say something now through maybe a spokesperson, or maybe the leadership of the National Assembly itself comes out to say something, what are they going to say? Because this is a serious issue that requires investigation. You don't speak at a certain level of government without first understanding the issues surrounding it. So SERAP is a non-governmental organization. They have made this statement. You would expect that the Auditor General, the National Assembly they have committees related, their relevant committee may be asked to contact the Auditor General's office for more information, maybe scrutiny of the documents that are in question and all that. Secondly, the National Assembly may not sit in the next 7 days to discuss this in their plenary session or in their executive session. So that's why I said I'm very sure that they cannot give an answer in 7 days as divided by SERAP. So the only option left for them is to maybe go to court as it is. So it is not that SERAP is actually really expecting any outcome from the National Assembly. I think they are just making the statement to follow due process, to say, oh, this thing concerns National Assembly and it concerns the nation. So we have made this report to the National Assembly and they did not respond to us within 7 days. So we are here in court to demand this and that. So I've already jumped past the National Assembly stage to the court area to say what are they going to court with and what should we be expecting from the court. The court would actually, if this goes to court, the court can still await, input from the National Assembly Service Commission regarding these allegations. So if the National Assembly Service Commission have answers, so they will send to the court or whatever they want to do.
Marvel, are you looking, or do you think, or don't you think this also might go the same way as budget padding, the way it went, because nobody heard the end of it?
No. This is a very different thing. You see, in the budget padding conversation, it was a matter within the National Assembly, and of course we heard a lot of contradictory stories, and at the end of the day, they had their own ways of resolving this issue. But you see, you heard about the constituency money in or out or whatever it is, and you heard people even coming out to justify that budget padding is part of the budget processes that takes place in the National Assembly. So that's a different thing. When it comes, this is a case of alleged fraud. So this is a case of that it stands against the principle of transparency and accountability that we are all struggling to meet in the country. So it's a case that should interest the security agencies in the country to also jump in and see what they should be. EFCC should also speak on this.
SERAP actually wants the EFCC and ICPC to investigate the alleged missing funds. So what would you expect from the anti-corruption agencies in handling a case involving somehow?
Since yesterday, EFCC should have been sleeping in the Auditor General's office. Because what if they start cooking the books? So you move in and fast and see where the issue is coming from.
Don't you think they are overstretched at this point, EFCC? I mean, the president just gave them kudos for securing about 7,000 convictions in 2 years, and they're recovering about 500 billion naira.
We have EFCC as a department of government. They have their own structures. So no matter the number of cases that comes up, it's their duty to follow up on those cases. If they need staff, they should apply to us that they need more.
Yeah, because I'm just wondering how one
but they have not said so.
SERAP drags Tinubu to court demanding probe into some huge sums of money that were spent on the humanitarian ministry, and that aside, SERAP is on the other hand suing the state governors, FCT minister over unaccounted 5.9 trillion naira loans, demands transparency petrol subsidy. Serap sues Tinubu over failure to prove missing $2.1 billion, that's 3.1 trillion naira payment. In all of these, they have so much cases to
These
handle.
are very important national issues. So they cannot say they don't have. You see, EFCC, most of these departments of government, they have their own legal departments. EFCC, they have their own legal department. But beyond those local legal departments, they outsource jobs to private lawyers. So we have so many law firms
Interested in this case.
in Nigeria that they can, contact to assist them. So we shouldn't even bother our mind about the capacity of EFCC to handle as many of these cases. What we should bother our mind upon is how to build a system that will reduce most of these cases that we are having. And like I have always been emphasizing, when you get it wrong at the fundamental level, you will continue to get it wrong, and it will keep complicating issues in the country. So if you are not getting your recruitment process right, if you are not getting your system, your procedures right, it is not enough, as we have come to see, for us to establish laws or to promulgate laws. It is not enough for us to write policies and all that. There is something also about the human factor of the kind of values, the kind of culture that we are building around ourselves. Most importantly, our sincerity of purpose when we are going about these things. Let's take, for example, when the Minister for Interior wanted to turn around the passport issuing process in Nigeria, he automated it. So he took away the human factor. So people that used to sit down to say, for you to sign, bring this form, you pay 10 naira. So at the end of the day, a passport that should have been 15,000 became 25 or 30,000. He took away the human factor from it. That shows sincerity of purpose. And he was able to come out to tell the country, if you are applying for international passport, you can get it within 1 week. Doable. And we have found that it is doable. So now you look at the electoral reforms. Come, let us do electronic voting. You start dilly-dallying on it. You don't want to do electronic voting. You don't want to transmit result of so is it rocket science for you to embrace this technology as is available? So we look at ourselves, the sincerity of purpose in getting these things done. So in the Auditor General's office, there should be a website that takes us to this audited report. It was having a 2022 audited report come out in 2025, and you could scale it down by the use of technology to see how you can narrow the gap and have these things done on a more timely basis. You could take a lot of actions on with sincerity of purpose that would transform our system. So if we are still running a civil service system that is not yet automated, that we are not embracing technology the way we should.
Let's see if we can get one or two calls to contribute to the discussion. You can dial us on 0803 085 7755 or send your WhatsApp messages to our number 0809 066 6909. Well, Marvel is in the house to address some of the issues or observations that you may make on the issue that we have at hand. We're discussing the recent talk from the Auditor General's office concerning some missing money in the National Assembly meant for a purpose. Okay, so find out exactly how much was sent in and why that amount has not been accounted for. Call us on 0803 085 7755 or 0809 066 6909. Hello, good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Yes, you're welcome.
Everything all right. This is Tosin the son you're calling from.
You're welcome, sir.
Well, CRSA, 247 River State. Well, what I want to say is that when it comes to election, it's no, a little bit, it's trying to know what you were discussing, but it's an affiliate of what you are saying that it's one of those things we talked about in this video, okay? So where is this the new island chairman or whatever they call him, I don't know, but if you want to do the right thing, I want to write his name on the kind of sign in the not indelible mark, on the kind of sign. I think he should electronic voting that it will be transmitted through the IRF and all that. So that will really help. You can sit down in all those places anywhere and vote. So like I'm making calls here, all the way from Port I know I can do double shift and the library in applying for. So what is the point? If we can do every other thing like the bank transfer and all that, electronically, how much is that of this? And it's up.
All right, we get your points. Thank
So there should be amendment towards that, okay? Thank you. Have a show there.
And you too. Thanks for calling us from the Garden City.
Okay.
We're still talking transparency. Okay.
We can take one more call before we wrap things up here. And speaking of wrapping things up, Marvel, let's talk about public confidence. Yes, let's talk about public confidence. Nigerians already frustrated with economic hardship and public waste, so it's no longer news. How do you think stories like this affect citizens' confidence in government institutions?
To a very large extent.
And what should happen next?
You see, that's why, you see, the kind of culture change program that we should embark upon is that should come from the president and, of course, to the all the three arms of government, to all the three tiers of government. And for that to happen, then it means that we should be able to build a system that would make people that are popular amongst the people get into positions of leadership. Because where you feel that immediately you're able to commit fraud at the recruitment level, then the government would be that of fraud all through. Because when we talk about checks and balances, you would also know that the expectations of the people, or if you are popular amongst the people, or if people want you back in government, or if you do a certain thing and you are not able to you won't be able to get back to that position, will act as a check against those things. So fundamentally, it's just treated at that level to ensure that the right people are in those places. Otherwise, we'll still keep struggling with these things, and it affects every aspect of our life. Because if you don't have trust in your leaders, then you cannot, comply with most of the rules or things that will be coming from that leadership. And
right.
What is that? It affects every other aspect of our lives.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on the program today, Marvel. Your insights, your thoughts, and your inputs have been well appreciated. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Osela.
Yeah, thank you, Marvel, for your opinions on the topic we had today. Thanks for calling, and do have a great day.
Thank you.
In the end, accountability isn't just about pointing fingers, it's about protecting the people's money and building trust in public institutions. If 18.6 billion naira can go missing without answers, then every Nigerian has a reason to ask, who watches the watchdogs? Of course, my name is NYAKNNO Albert, and I want to thank you, our valued listener, for